What if I told you there's an SUV coming out of China that looks far more expensive than its price tag suggests, packs serious road presence, and could be one of the most interesting alternatives in the compact SUV market? The 2026 Dongfeng Forthing T5 is here to challenge the usual names, and this SUV might surprise you. Hi everyone, welcome back to Motor Zone YouTube channel. Today, we're taking a closer look at the 2026 Dongfeng Forthing T5, an SUV designed to combine bold styling, modern technology, everyday practicality, and an increasingly sophisticated driving experience. Forthing has been pushing aggressively into the global automotive market, and the T5 shows exactly why Chinese manufacturers are getting so much attention. From the first glance, the T5 doesn't try to disappear into traffic. It has a confident design, a modern cabin, and the kind of visual presence that makes you wonder how much this SUV is actually going to cost. But looking good is only half the story. What really matters is what happens when you step inside, press the start button, and take it onto the road. Let's start with the exterior, because this is where the 2026 Forthing T5 immediately makes an impression. The front end has a wide, modern appearance, with a large grille treatment that gives the SUV a strong visual identity. The design is much more aggressive than you might expect from a practical family crossover. Depending on the market and trim, the front facade can feature distinctive lighting elements that give the T5 a futuristic character, especially when the headlights are illuminated at night. The headlights are another important part of the design. They feature a sharp, contemporary shape that flows naturally into the front-end styling. LED lighting technology gives the SUV a cleaner appearance while also improving visibility during nighttime driving. The daytime running lights add another layer of personality, creating a recognizable lighting signature from a distance. And then there's the grille. Rather than using a simple, conservative design, Forthing gives the T5 a much more expressive front face. The combination of the grille, sculpted bumper, sharp lighting, and carefully shaped bodywork creates an SUV that looks wider and more planted than it actually is. Move around to the side, and the design becomes more balanced. The 2026 Forthing T5 features a strong shoulder line running along the body, helping to visually stretch the SUV and make it look longer. The roofline remains practical enough for everyday use, while the overall silhouette gives the vehicle a sporty crossover character. The wheel design also plays a major role in the appearance. Larger alloy wheels on higher trims give the T5 a more premium stance, while the wheel arches add a little extra toughness to the overall design. The combination of relatively large wheels, sculpted doors, and a rising beltline makes the side profile look modern rather than basic. The rear continues the theme with modern lighting and a clean, wide design. The taillights help emphasize the width of the vehicle, while the rear bumper adds a more muscular appearance. The overall result is an SUV that doesn't look overly complicated, but still has enough styling details to stand out. And that's really one of the strongest points of the T5. It doesn't simply copy the traditional SUV formula. Instead, it combines several modern design trends into one package. Whether you're parked outside a shopping center, driving through the city, or cruising down the highway, the T5 has enough road presence to attract attention. But of course, exterior design only gets you so far. The real test begins when you open the door. Inside the 2026 Forthing T5, the focus shifts from aggressive styling to technology and comfort. The cabin is designed around a modern dashboard layout, with a digital-focused approach that makes the interior feel much more contemporary than older-generation Chinese SUVs. Depending on specification, drivers can expect a digital instrument display and a large central infotainment screen that places important functions within easy reach. The infotainment system is one of the areas where modern Chinese vehicles have become particularly competitive. The T5 aims to provide a connected experience, with access to entertainment, navigation, vehicle settings, and other everyday functions through the central display. And visually, the dashboard is designed to feel clean and organized. Instead of filling every surface with unnecessary buttons, the T5 uses a combination of physical controls and touchscreen functions. That gives the cabin a more sophisticated appearance while still keeping important functions accessible. The steering wheel has a modern design and puts key controls directly in the driver's hands. This means you can manage various functions without constantly taking your eyes away from the road. Then there's the seating. For a compact to midsize SUV, cabin space is extremely important, especially for families. The T5 is designed to provide a comfortable seating position for both the driver and passengers, with enough room to make longer journeys more relaxing. Up front, the driver gets a commanding view of the road. The elevated seating position gives you that SUV feeling while also making it easier to judge the vehicle's dimensions in city traffic. The front seats are shaped with everyday comfort in mind, and higher specifications can offer additional comfort features. Depending on the market, equipment can include features such as power adjustment, climate functions, and other convenience technologies. The rear seats are equally important. Passengers get useful legroom and headroom, making the T5 practical for family transportation. The rear bench can also provide flexible space for passengers and cargo, which is exactly what buyers expect from an SUV in this class. Storage is another area where the T5 aims to be practical. Door pockets, center console storage, cup holders, and other compartments help keep everyday items organized. And when you need to carry larger items, the rear cargo area gives the T5 the flexibility that makes SUVs so popular in the first place. But perhaps the biggest surprise inside the T5 is the overall atmosphere. Modern materials, digital displays, ambient design elements, and carefully integrated technology can make the cabin feel more expensive than you might expect. Chinese manufacturers have clearly realized that buyers aren't only shopping for engines and dimensions anymore. They want an experience, and the T5 is built around that idea. You want a large screen. It has one. You want digital information in front of the driver. It can provide it. You want a modern-looking dashboard. Forthing has clearly paid attention to that. You want a comfortable family SUV. That's also part of the formula. But now comes the question that matters most. How does it actually drive? Depending on market and specification, the Forthing T5 lineup can be offered with different powertrain configurations, so exact engine specifications can vary between versions and countries. One of the commonly associated configurations uses a turbocharged petrol engine, designed to provide a strong balance between everyday performance and fuel efficiency. A turbocharged engine makes sense for this type of SUV because it can deliver useful torque without requiring an enormous engine. In everyday driving, that means the T5 can feel responsive when pulling away from traffic lights, joining a highway, or overtaking slower vehicles. The power delivery is designed more around smooth, usable performance than extreme acceleration. This isn't a sports car pretending to be an SUV. It's a family crossover that wants to give you enough power to make daily driving enjoyable. Depending on the exact powertrain, transmission, and market specification, output can be in the range expected from a modern compact SUV, with some versions offering roughly 150 horsepower or more. And honestly, that kind of power can be perfectly adequate for everyday driving. The important thing is how that power is delivered. In city traffic, you want smooth acceleration and predictable throttle response. On the highway, you want enough torque to maintain speed without constantly working the engine. And when the vehicle is loaded with passengers, you want the engine to remain confident. That's where the turbocharged setup can be useful. The transmission also plays an important role. A modern automatic transmission can help keep the engine operating in an efficient range while providing smooth shifts during normal driving. When you push harder, the T5 can deliver a more energetic response, but the overall character remains focused on comfort and usability. The suspension is another key part of the driving experience. Forthing has to find a balance between comfort and stability, because SUV buyers want a vehicle that feels comfortable over broken city roads but remains composed at highway speeds. The T5's ride is designed to absorb everyday bumps while maintaining a stable feel through corners. The higher seating position gives you confidence, while the crossover proportions make it easier to maneuver than a much larger SUV. Steering is generally tuned for everyday usability rather than aggressive sports driving. That makes sense because the T5 is designed for families, commuters, and drivers who want a practical vehicle they can use every day. Fuel efficiency is another major consideration. Turbocharged engines can offer a good combination of performance and economy when driven sensibly. Your actual fuel consumption will depend on the engine version, transmission, traffic, road conditions, driving style, and vehicle load. And that's important to remember because specifications can vary significantly depending on the market. But the bigger story here isn't simply horsepower or fuel economy. It's the overall package. The 2026 Forthing T5 represents the new generation of Chinese SUVs that are no longer trying to compete only on price. They're competing on design, technology, comfort, features, and overall ownership experience. And that makes the T5 a much more interesting vehicle than its badge might initially suggest. You get an aggressive exterior, a technology-focused interior, practical passenger space, modern connectivity, and a turbocharged powertrain designed for everyday driving. The question is whether buyers are ready to give a brand like Forthing a chance. Because the automotive market is changing rapidly. A few years ago, many buyers would automatically choose an established Japanese, Korean, European, or American brand. Today, the competition is much more complicated. Chinese automakers are introducing vehicles with impressive designs, increasingly sophisticated interiors, advanced technology, and competitive pricing. The Forthing T5 is part of that movement. It doesn't need to be the fastest SUV in its class. It doesn't need to have the biggest engine. And it doesn't need to imitate a luxury vehicle perfectly. Instead, it needs to provide a complete package that makes sense for real-world buyers. And that's exactly where this SUV becomes interesting. If you're looking for a stylish crossover for city driving, family trips, commuting, and occasional highway adventures, the T5 deserves a closer look. It has the visual appeal to stand out, the interior technology to feel modern, and the practical characteristics expected from an SUV. So, after looking at the exterior, stepping inside the cabin, and exploring what the powertrain brings to the table, the 2026 Dongfeng Forthing T5 is shaping up as a vehicle that deserves more attention than it might normally receive. It's stylish without being ridiculous, modern without becoming overly complicated, and practical without looking boring. And perhaps that's the biggest reason why this SUV is worth watching. The competition is getting tougher every year, and vehicles like the Forthing T5 are proving that the SUV market is no longer dominated by a handful of traditional brands. So, what do you think about the 2026 Dongfeng Forthing T5? Would you consider this SUV over a more established competitor, especially if the price and equipment package are attractive? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Motor Zone, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest car reviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.